So here we are. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving in July, as it turns out, because that's when we're recording this. But we just worked out that is when this episode is going out. Deb, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. I know this is going to be a great conversation. When we chatted, it was such fun. You've got so much to share with us. So thank you for being here with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would be happy to. And first of all, it's a good day to be thankful. So I thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. My name is Deb Brown. I currently live in Biloxi, Mississippi in the U.S. I am co-founder of an organization called SaveYour.Town. Along with Becky McCrae, we work in rural communities. We teach them practical steps that they can put into action right away. This is important because we believe that people already have permission to do the things they want to do. They have the power, they just don't really know it. The two of us have been working together about 10 years. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so I've been in the work world for a while doing things like foreign casualty insurance underwriting and managing retail stores, sold some luggage. Harrods wanted to hire me to sell luggage, go figure, right? That was about 1,000,000 years ago. And throughout the whole process, my heart has always been in rural communities and small towns because that's the way I was born and raised too. And now I get to work with people that want to work with me and make a difference in their community. It's exciting work that we do.
Right. I mean, your enthusiasm just shines through when you talk about it, which is
Thank
always
you.
great. So what do you do with these communities?
That's a really great question. So we have a method, the idea-friendly method, and I'm going to share that with you quickly and then do an example of it. So it's based upon what is your big idea? What do you want to see in your community that will improve your quality of life? Then you gather your crowd around that idea. You don't meet in meetings and conferences and city halls. You might go to the bar and have a beer and talk with your friends about a change you'd like to see, or have a glass of wine. I keep talking about alcohol, sorry. And I don't drink anymore, so how about that? You might want to have a brilliant cup of coffee. There we go. Anyway, you come together and talk about the things you want to do. And of course, you don't know everything you need, so you have to build some connections and pull some other folks in that are going to help you with stuff. And you will realize that you're already taking small steps to accomplish this big goal. And you will continue to take the small steps. Find the smallest, most meaningful way to test and try out your idea. It just makes it so much fun and so much easier. Alva, Oklahoma, about 5,000 people in that town, had some old playground equipment. It looked like a boat, and they named it Bodie because, they're original. But it was welded in metal and had sharp edges, and it was really very old. A group of moms just came together and said, we can't have our kids playing on this stuff. We need new playground equipment. They came together, they talked, they brought in some connections. Who do we know that's a welder that can weld that front end that's already rough? Those kind of small steps. And then they started doing that. They didn't form committees. They didn't make a 3-year plan. They didn't try to raise money. They just used their phones and texted and talked to each other and took small steps. It's now been 7 or 8 years, and they have new playground equipment now. But they did it by first repairing what they had and then finding ways to raise money locally and get new playground equipment. Then they went to the next part. So in their community, they have safe playground equipment because a group of moms wanted to make a difference for their kids. That's how the idea-friendly method works.
Right. So what you say it's really important to you to work in a rural community. And I can imagine that rural communities, that things work differently than in a city. That's a bit of an obvious statement, but what is it about rural communities that makes this approach really fit them so well?
Part of it is that they mostly know each other. Everybody is familiar with who they are, their family, their history, all of that. But they know how to have conversations and how important it is to be involved in their local community. So that's the first step. Now, there are some cities that really are only a collection of small towns. I think of Chicago because there's every little neighborhood. There's the Polish neighborhood and the Latina neighborhood. And I mean, they all work together in their own little ways. And it would work in that kind of environment too. But because Becky's a cattle rancher, her and her husband are cattle ranchers. And that's what our background and our area of expertise is. So that's why we prefer rural.
Right. Yeah. So I was just thinking as well that, I mean, you were saying about Chicago, and yes, anybody who introduces themselves as being from Chicago, I've noticed they tend to say, I'm from the South Side or I'm from West. They say where they're from in Chicago, don't they? Not just I'm from Chicago.
Well,
Yeah.
what's funny about that? My kids live in Chicago. I lived there a number of years. Those people aren't even from Chicago. They're from the suburbs or another small town. So they'll say, I'm from West Chicago. No, I don't think so. You don't match the description of the people that live in West Chicago, where you're really from, right? So it's just easier to say I'm from Chicago and people get the general idea. But they're usually not, which is kind of interesting. So I always want to dig a little deeper because the work we do, we're familiar with working in those size of communities.
Right, yeah, because we had a guest on the show, LeVar Love, who works in Chicago, and he works in construction projects, helping to rebuild the community using
God bless
construction. Yeah, it's a beautiful episode, and I'm sure you'd really relate to some of the things that he talked about. Amazing guy. Yeah, I'm sure you'd really appreciate the way he's doing things. So, okay, looking from the outside in at the States at the moment, we're not going to go full tilt at things that are happening in the States, but there does seem to be an enormous wedge, gap between what's going on in rural areas and what's going on in the cities.
So are you talking politics?
Well,
shall we throw that out there?
Just go as far as you want to go, Deb.
Well, there is and has been for a while a urban-rural divide. And frankly, in my humble opinion, I think that's just a lack of communication. We have not figured out how to get to know each other and build relationships. And once we do that, then that kind of goes away because in the end, we're all human beings. And in the end, we want usually what's best for our friends and our family and our loved ones, right? So the urban-rural divide, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Politically, you don't have any choice but to pay attention to it, right? But I also know that if you focus on negative things, you tend to bring negative things into your atmosphere. So what can you do to make a real difference in your community because of the way they're being hit politically? Some communities are losing their assistance from the federal government for disaster. That's a good example.
Oh, yeah.
So what can we do instead? What's possible? We're seeing states step up and say, we're going to help you. We've got these ideas. The communications are starting because we're not giving up. No matter what side you're on, we like our people and we want to keep things going, hopefully better than what they are right now. That's as political as I can get. So when I'm in a small town, I have to be able to look at both sides of the conversation because those are the people I'm working with. So if I can talk to the individual instead of talking to the party, life is a whole lot easier.
Yeah, well, I think that's always the case, right?
Yeah.
Human to human conversation is a lot better than representative of political party to representative political party. That's not going to go anywhere.
Not easily. Yeah.
No. So you were talking when we spoke before about some people say, oh, life was so much better in the fuse or something like that. And so there also seems to be a thing going on, probably worldwide, but definitely see it in the US, where people seem to want to go back to the good old days when everything was wonderful. Give us a bit of your perspective on that.
Absolutely. Because I used to be afraid of that question, not knowing exactly what they were talking about. I was born in 55, so I don't remember the feast, but I thought about that for a long time. And then I realized I just have to dig a little bit further. So when somebody says, I wish it was like it was in the 50s and 60s, I'm able to say, okay, I got you. I hear you. I liked my youth too. Tell me what it was that you're missing. What did you really like? And eventually it comes down to things like we talked to each other more. We were more neighborly. Stores were open later. It's any number of things that now we can have a conversation and address the issue versus trying to change the entire environment to something that's not coming back. But we can be more neighborly, and we can keep our stores open later, and we can work with each other and create the kind of communities we really want to live in.
Yeah. So your entire method seems to me is don't go for the big stuff, go for the small stuff, make sure you understand what's going on there at that level, fix it there, and then from there you can go to you can get bigger and do
Small
more
steps up. Absolutely. Yeah. The majority of us, when a disaster comes through or something gigantic, we go out, we do what we know to do, and we do it well, not even thinking about it. It's the small stuff that we get hung up on. So let's pay attention to that first. We're not hoping on natural disasters for anybody, but let's look at where we are right now and just be more neighborly, build relationships, talk to each other more, play with our kids more as families, those kind of things.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great perspective on it. Okay, another question I've got to ask you, Deb. So, you're a child of the 50s. I'm a child of the 60s. When I was growing up, I didn't see women with tattoos. And look at you. And aren't they beautiful? Yeah.
Thank you.
So
it's pretty bizarre. Yeah, I'll give you that. First of all, I didn't start getting tattoos till I was 59 years old. And it started with one. I knew a young man that had done some pretty fabulous work. And I thought, well, okay, I want a peony. I want a nice flower on my arm. And it's kind of like an addiction, right? I don't know how to explain it very well, but at 59, I knew I was doing what I wanted to do. I wasn't worried about getting a job, right? Where I would have been at 35, would have worried that I wouldn't be hired because I had tattoos. And you're right. I get more questions and people wanting to see them and hear the stories than I get negative comments. In fact, I seldom get negative comments. I hope that's my aura, that I don't welcome them. But so if you want one, get one is what I'm trying to say here. If I'm standing on a large stage, I generally have long sleeves on. That's one thing I do. But even that has changed some because I think we have to be the individuals we are and we have to learn to work across the entire age range. I can tell you 20 and 30-year-olds love me because I can understand them a little bit. I've got some really cool tattoos and they get that. Their parents, maybe. Their grandparents, usually not. But they're curious. They want to hear the story.
Yeah. And I think there's something, really empowering about getting to a certain age and then thinking, okay, so I've been sort of waiting for permission for things. And then you suddenly think, that makes no sense whatsoever. If I want to do something, let's just go and do it, right?
It is so funny you say that because a lot of our work in small towns, I tell people they have permission to do it. They don't have to wait for permission. They already had it. Just go ahead and do it. Try it. Test it out. See if it's going to work. It's the same kind of thing with the tattoos. I tried it. I got a couple. I really liked it. Got some really lovely watercolor kind of stuff. And here I am today talking to you. Gave myself permission.
Yeah. And we can do that. I remember being in a furniture store where just after divorce number one, and I saw an amazing looking bed. And I circled this bed, walked around it and thought, oh, I would love to sleep in that bed. I just loved it to bits. I think I looked at it for about half an hour. Then I realized I was waiting for somebody to give me permission to buy the bed. And then that was like a healing moment in my divorce. Well, I don't need to agree this with anyone. If I like the bed, buy the bed. So I did, obviously.
Perfect. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And even if you were still married to that person, you could have bought the bed.
Yeah, almost certainly. So it's, it's something that we do ourselves, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Deb, if I say the word power, what associations do you have with it?
So power is, for me, I believe that power is when we help each other. It's about giving. It's about not expecting something in return. It's about making a difference in the places that you can make a difference. Whether it's, we have a very dear friend, Miss Daisy, that has rheumatoid arthritis, and she's stuck at home at her computer. She can't do a whole lot. But boy, can she just go on social media, and she watches all kinds of movies on the computer, and she shares stuff. She's powerful for a lot of people like us that she works with. There's always some place where you can choose to be powerful in your life, in your world. Power doesn't have a negative connotation for me. It's absolutely positive, and more people should recognize and honor their own power.
It would keep things in much better balance, wouldn't it? If more of us did that, instead of assuming that power was something that other people had.
Right, right.
So, when do you feel most powerful?
When something's working. For example, I'm going to the state of Washington next week to work with some communities out there. And I'm preparing a presentation all about the results from 10 years of survey of rural challenges. I am having the most fun preparing this for those communities because I've done my homework, and I feel powerful because I'm able to give them the kind of information they've been looking for, but they don't know where it is. And then we're going to do some really cool stuff and get started on some practical steps they can do right away. One community literally lost all but 4 or 5 buildings in a fire. It's crazy when I look at the pictures. I'm like, oh my God, the town is gone. And the first thing they did was build a community center. So people had a place to go, and where they had a place to bring helpers in and people to do presentations. I thought, oh my God, how smart are they? That makes me feel powerful when people recognize what they can do and get it done. Just go do it.
Yeah, love it. And what do you enjoy about power?
Well, the fact that I recognize it now and notice that I have it and I use it, I enjoyed those things because when I was younger, I didn't. And that's pretty common for women. I hope that's changing, that our younger sisters are stepping up early and being who they really are. So what do I enjoy when I see power? Well, I'm happy. I'm happy for that person. I try to learn from them. What is it? How'd they get there? What's their story? I want to know why they made those decisions and gave themselves permission. And I want to hear more from that kind of person. We stopped telling our stories. My mother was Scottish, and I had the opportunity to go to Scotland up in the Highlands, and neighbors ran the bed and breakfast, took care of the B&B. It was hysterical. They invited us over for dinner one night. It was funny to me. It's not funny anymore. And they were talking about Bonnie Prince Charlie escaping in women's clothing as if it happened last month.
Oh, it's a big
Okay.
thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's like that's their story. And they were able to take it from there to where they are today. We need more of that. We need more of recognizing and honoring our history and our stories and not getting caught in them. Bring that excitement and energy to the future.
The Irish are great storytellers. My father was half Irish, so he had that sort of flair for storytelling as well. And it's lovely. It's just so nice when people talk about things and, what they've been through and experienced. And yeah, love it.
And the indigenous here in the States are usually pretty good about storytelling as well, too. And that's because these groups have passed their history down orally before written word. And I think really you learn at the knee of your grandmother of how to tell your story, how to tell your past, and how to figure out what you're doing right now. That's powerful.
Yeah, that connection with the past, that's something that I've always really valued. How did my family do things in the past, and how was that different to how I do things now, and what's similar about it? And yeah.
And, I encourage people too, for those that don't know their personal history, the familiar history, it doesn't matter. What town do they live in? What is that town's history? What happened 100 years ago there? Find your local historian, because I promise you every small town has one. You just have to find them and listen to the stories and ask a lot of questions. Don't wrap yourself up with, I don't know, I never learned that, or I'm adopted, or whatever the case may be. Find a story that you feel is yours. And it is.
And I think you're saying something really profound here, because feeling able to tell your story is also an act of power, isn't it? Not letting yourself
Absolutely.
being defined by what other people tell you your story is, but taking your own story, constructing it, finding the elements that work for you. That is really
Yeah.
about power as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. I hadn't looked at it that way, but yeah,
Yeah.
we
Well,
all
this,
have a little bit of pride and the desire to be recognized in the world. And we are able to do that by simply telling our stories. And, if you got a kid or a grandkid or a great niece, have a conversation. Ask them questions. What do you know? Did you know this? Did you know my great grandma did this? Those kind of teasing questions to get the conversation going. Share them with your kids and grandkids. Perfect. Perfect.
yeah. Yeah. I don't have grandkids, but I was just having a conversation the other day saying, well, I'm starting to edge towards thinking I might actually enjoy this at some point, and I think that the story side of it is probably something that I would really, really enjoy, that passing on things from the past.
So
Yeah.
one of the things I like to do in small towns is a great lead in is connect the kids in school, and I mean from third to sixth grade, with the nursing home residents. Now, how can we bring them together? And it's perfect because these kids know how to record anything. Put a phone in their hand and they can go work with this older person who's got a great story and record it and maybe do some artwork around it and really get to know each other in a very safe environment and an easy way. And it helps tell our community's history better too. Yeah, we recommend doing things like that. And
That's
and
beautiful.
the same with your high school and college students. They all have projects they need to do. They all, if they're smart, they got to earn community hours for something. And if they're not so smart, they got to go work somewhere, right? Figure out how to bring people together, because that's where your divide is, frankly. Grandma doesn't want to hear about this skateboard that this kid loves. But grandma might want to hear about the history of the skateboard and Tony, what's his name, and how he's now in his late 50s and he's still skating. And so there's places to come together.
Yeah, I love those kind of projects. When my son was small, he went to a play group is what we call it. So it was just a sort of daycare. And one of the things they did every second week, which is one of the things I loved about that place, was they'd take all the kids. They were 3, 4, something like that, and we'd walk to the local old people's home, and then they would get the group of older people who had dementia or starting dementia, and they would sit in a circle and they would look sort of frozen a lot of the time. There was nothing going on. It seemed like there was nothing in there, nothing going on. And then the kids would start playing, as kids do. And you'd see them all wake up and they'd start smiling, and they'd be throwing balls at the kids and they'd be singing songs together. And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
And
And
that's a connection that is so important. You're right.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was. I made sure I was free for every one of those sessions because it was so beautiful to see. The kids had no idea that these people, had dementia. They had no idea.
Yeah, they didn't even know what it was. Yeah.
No, had no idea. So it was a beautiful, beautiful project. So I really love what you're talking about there about bringing the generations together. Beautiful.
And these are steps that help improve our quality of life. They don't sound like maybe they're that important, but in the scope of things, they really are. Anytime you have the opportunity to bring people together and get to know each other is a real win for your community as well. It's
Yeah.
simple. Life doesn't have to be that difficult. It's simple.
No, but we do need to get out of our homes and communicate with one another, right?
We do indeed. Yep, I
Yeah.
agree.
So, what do you do when you want to feel more powerful?
That's a really good question. I write because I am a writer. I'm working on a series of mini books about some of the challenges that we've met in small towns because I know the things I've seen and the work we've helped do is going to help somebody else down the road. So of course I have to share that. I really don't have a choice in my heart. So that makes me feel powerful that I'm able to give something, that I've learned something that's going to be of value to somebody.
Yeah, it doesn't get any more powerful than that, does it? If you know that you're doing something, you're helping people's lives, and then you've also got that extra leverage of helping more people through what you've learned. Yeah,
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 yeah.
beautiful.
And yeah, I'm happy that I'm able to do that. Indeed. And I have a dog. I have a Chihuahua. Oh my God, Shirley. She's a rescue, but she rescued me. That's the
Yeah. Oh,
long
yeah.
going
Yeah, yeah,
story,
yeah.
right? And she's the powerful one in the house, but she makes me smile all day long. Who knew that you could get so much love from one small animal? Who knew? That's powerful.
Uh, yeah, they have some amazing abilities. Animals do. They
Yeah.
really, really do. More contact with people, more contact with animals would make us all a lot happier. I'm sure of it.
Wouldn't it though? Wouldn't
Yeah.
it though? Yeah.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to business owners if they want to feel more powerful? If they're maybe feeling disempowered, or they would just like to explore what else they could do or what more they could do with their
Well, first of
business?
all, partner up with the business next door to you. Who's on your block? Can you get together with two or three other business owners and just sit down and talk to each other? What's working for you? What's not working for you? Do you think we could do a project? Should we have an event? What kind of things could we do? Start sharing your need for assistance. It's hard to ask for help. As humans, we don't like to do that. But now is the perfect time to do that as a business owner, is to reach out and ask for help if you need it or offer help over a cup of coffee where you're sitting around talking to each other. Make that kind of a regular thing, not every day or every week, but maybe once a month. And I promise you that you're going to build a community of business owners that care about their community and want to be successful and want their shoppers to be successful too. Don't hesitate to start something. Take a small step. Invite people to your store at 5:30. If you close at 5, invite people to come over at 5:30 and offer tea and crackers and talk a little bit. Don't have a meeting, just have a conversation.
Oh, I love that. Not meetings, but conversations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, kill the committees. Who needs them?
They do tend to attract the people who like to be listened to, don't they?
Well, and that generation is quickly leaving us. Pretty soon, there's not going to be anybody that wants to serve on a committee or has time to serve on a committee. So let's figure out how we can get more people involved around a project versus around the same thing we do every year.
Right.
You wanna host a
Right.
fundraiser for your local organization? You know it's going to take a couple of months to put that together. Who can help you? I can help you for a Saturday. Ask me for 3 hours on a Saturday for something. I'm your girl. Don't ask me for 3 years on a committee because I'm not going to come.
This seems to me to be a really fundamental point as well. That way that we used to volunteer for things. You'd be in an organization, you'd work your way up through the hierarchy in the committees and to mainly become the chairman of something or other, or chairperson or whatever. But now, yeah, you're right. People don't want to do that anymore. So this project based approach makes so much more sense.
You know, when I was chamber director in a small town, we had a big event coming and we had 12 hours that we had to fill with different kinds of entertainment. It was insane. And it was under my bailiwick. I was in charge of that. So what we did is we brought people together from the community. We just all met. Once was in the library, once was in the school. And I would ask, so what is it that you would like to see? And nobody said anything. And finally, one guy said, well, I think we should have a chili cook-off. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? You're right. We should. You're in charge of that. We'll set you up. Here's the map. You're set up here. You're in charge of it. If you need something, give us a holler. We'll help. In fact, I'll bring in the state food people so your licensing is covered. And we just continued on down the road to give people permission to do the things they wanted to do. And you can bet that event was successful because people were doing the stuff they wanted to do. And they brought their friends and family to come do it too.
You didn't take over. You didn't say, we're going to do it for you. It's great, you do it, which also empowers that person.
Indeed.
Through that experience. Yeah.
And once they got the hang of it, that I was serious, it really was a hysterical event. I mean, we had Fred and Wilma Flintstone races. We had human foosball. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff I would never have thought of that happened that day, those 12 hours. It's because the community came up with it, not just one person or one committee.
Yeah. And with that kind of event, the more ideas, the more creative you can get, right? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I bet that Fred and Wilma Flintstone race was hilarious.
Oh my God, they made their own little car. And then they had a Barney and why can't I think of his wife? Anyway, Fred and Barney in their own separate race cars. It was hysterical. So many different things that folks came up with and had a ball.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Deb, is there any last thing you'd like us to know?
If you want to talk to me, I love answering emails. You can send me an email at deb@SaveYour.Town. And that's SaveYour.TOWN. If you got a question, give me a holler. I'll answer you. I want to hear your story too. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. It's been really inspirational. You've helped me connect up a couple of dots that I didn't realize I was trying to connect. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful talking to you today.
And thank you. And happy Thanksgiving to my American friends.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Yeah.
Indeed.